afternoon. I'm Kyohere, and I am the founder of Beyonic. And I'd like to speak to you today about funds to phones. And Beyonic is a US company and an African company. And so I'm going to speak about a different take on the idea of mobile is global and on the viability of starting a mobile business in Africa and how that helps with social good. If I can get this to work. There we go. All right, so I'm going to start by giving some statistics, reminding us of some things that we know or we probably know. Africa is the fastest growing mobile phone market in the world. And when we say that, we usually think about basic phones. But if you look at that, you'll see that basic phones are actually reducing, and instead we see feature phones and, more importantly, smartphones actually increasing over time. Right now, over 50% of mobile devices are in emerging markets. One of the things that is causing this trend, is helping this trend, is the cost of smartphones. So this picture right here, this graph is something I put together while I was running technology in Uganda for Grameen Foundation. And over the period of a year, we saw smartphones drop from $500 to under $100. And that was 2 years ago. Right now, we see Nokia speaking about a $20 handset and Mozilla working on a $25 smartphone. Those are important trends, and these are things that are making it possible for us to reach further down with technology, but also to innovate much more with the solutions we have. The things we can do on a smartphone are very different from what we could do on feature phones and even on basic phones, and having them in more and more hands is an important trend. The other thing that I want to speak about is mobile money. Now, when we speak about mobile money, I'm speaking about the ability for people to use phones to transact, and not just to use phones to extend access to their bank accounts, but in cases to use phones as alternatives to bank accounts, and perhaps even as replacements for bank accounts. So in places where banking is under 30% in coverage and in usage, phones are the devices that people are using to connect. And mobile money allows people to transfer money to each other. It allows people to buy groceries with their mobile phones, to save with their mobile phones, and to do things that people with bank accounts and access to other financial instruments have been doing for quite a while over mobile. And so for the first time, people are able to save. People are part of the financial inclusion community. People are able to access financial services that for a long time they haven't been able to do. And that trend there is also driving innovation. It's driving the ability to build products that help people move from one place in their lives, one level of financial sustainability to another. So when we speak about innovation in mobile money, we've seen that phones are increasing, prices are coming down, mobile money is proliferating, and what are people doing? There are a number of ways to innovate, and the first one is person-to-person payments. Mobile payment networks around the world are being set up by telcos, by banks, and so on to allow people to transfer money to each other. There's a lot happening there. Person-to-business payments. People are building systems, organizations, companies are building systems that allow people to transfer money from their phones to businesses, to buy groceries, to pay their bills, to pay for goods using their mobile phones. They're enabling merchants to accept mobile payments. So a lot of good innovation is happening there as well. Now, business-to-person payments are another way that you could innovate. And this is an area that I want to touch on because that's where Beyonic is focusing, because there's not a lot happening there yet. There are things happening, but we believe there's a lot more that could happen. Right now, 90% of transactions over mobile payment networks are person-to-person. That means there's a huge opportunity for people to innovate around person-to-business and business-to-person payments. So what's Beyonic doing? We've built a platform called the Funds to Phones platform. And what that does is it lets businesses and organizations make payments through these existing mobile payment networks to individuals. And that means that if you're a business and organization working in remote parts of the world, rather than having people come back and forth with cash, you can send them money via these mobile payment networks. And we'll see why that's a very good thing. When we look at it from a cost point of view, right now the world is spending about $30 billion every year managing cash. And that's the transaction fees around cash, that's the security around managing cash, and that's just the logistics, making sure things get where they should go and making sure there is no fraud. So if we could get businesses and organizations to embrace electronic means of payment, to embrace mobile money and other means of payment like this, we would save the world $30 billion every year. And who's making these payments? The people we're working with right now are nonprofits that have field operations, agricultural companies that have farmer groups that they source coffee from and they source sugar from, and so on. There are mining companies that have contractors in the field that they're paying. So these are everyday things, everyday business transactions that now can be shifted from cash to mobile. In East Africa alone, there are about 50,000 of these organizations just waiting to make this move. So I'll quickly tell us a bit about Educate, who is one of the customers we're working with. They're a US-based nonprofit, and they are working in East Africa to try and bolster the entrepreneurship curricula. They have a number of reasons for switching. When we asked them why they wanted to switch, they said that it was more efficient. They wanted to scale faster. They were worried about transactions getting lost. They were worried about not being able to track. Most importantly, they wanted to have better impact and reach more people. And these are the same reasons that a number of organizations that we speak to have for switching. So Educate before used to have teachers, students, and people burst into town, so into Kampala, which is the capital city of Uganda, from far out of the city. So they'd be on the bus for about 4 or 5 hours either way. Educate would pay for their transportation, it would pay for their meals, it would pay for their per diems, give them money, and send them out again. And sometimes they'd have to wait while someone went to the bank to get a bunch of money. Now, obviously that is inefficient, it's insecure, and it takes a lot of time. So they're wasting a lot of time using cash. And this may seem like just one case, but this is the typical scenario in the areas that we work. Now, using our system, the scenario is different. The most important thing is that people who are in the field stay in the field. They'll fill out a requisition form electronically. It will be processed and approved the same way that approve a cash transaction, except that it would happen electronically. And then Beyonic would process the payments, send them to whatever mobile payment network these people are on, and they would be able to cash out at an agent next door or use the cash in mobile phone. Payments are faster. We'll see that some of the benefits that Educate has is that they were able to move from recruiting only 150 schools every recruitment drive to only 50 every recruitment drive to 150. Transaction costs fell by 66%. There's 20% reduction in time spent, and that was more time that they could use for their recruitment efforts. But the most important statistic is the actual 70% of the people who they were reaching who are using mobile payments for the first time. That means that businesses, organizations, companies have the ability to effect financial inclusion by shifting the way they pay people. If you pay people with cash, they'll use cash. If you pay people insecurely, they'll keep on using secure methods of using money. So by shifting their staff from paying over cash to paying over mobile, 70% of the people are now in a system that gives them financial inclusion, gives them the ability to save, gives them a chance to be part of this global financial economy. So this project started about 6 months ago, and I just wanted to share where we are right now. We are seeing about 600% more transactions now than we did 6 months ago, and that shows that such a thing is useful, it's viable, and it is actually a going concern. We see things going in the right direction. And for my last slide, I'll just speak about Austin. Austin is a place that's becoming more and more aware of opportunities outside the US, opportunities in Africa. Companies here, startups here, realize that they can invest here and invest in Africa, and there is a lot of power in creating that bridge. In the nonprofit space, we've had a lot of nonprofits that work outside the US, but more and more we're seeing for-profit companies, we're seeing businesses, we're seeing investors beginning to bridge that gap as well. And so the business world is lagging a bit behind the nonprofit world in that sense, but we're seeing things going in the right direction. So innovation for social good, the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce, and all these great bodies and communities that are beginning to work with businesses like ours outside the US to make things like this possible. Thank you, and I'll just leave my contact information up there. I'd love to speak to some of you and to learn from you and to learn how we can work together. Thanks a lot.